friends, my name is Jake. Welcome back to Canadian Cutting Edge, and I've got a Harnds knife. Yes, Harnds. You won't find very many Harnds videos out there. It's one of those companies that's just, it just keeps plugging on, at least for the last number of years, mostly under the radar. This is an unusual knife. This is the TIMBERWOLF, model CK2701, I think it is, and then some more letters. Comes in 3 different colorways. I got the black G10 with the satin and a little bit of stonewash blade, D2 steel, which I generally don't like on pocket knives, but that's the only way this one comes. And I'm a bit of a fan of Harnds knives. Am I a fan of this knife, though? How are you going to find out unless you watch? Stick around, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, or dislike even if you don't like this video. Leave a comment. I would appreciate it very much. Time to go to the tabletop. We'll take a good close look at this thing. All right, here she is. Hopefully the lighting's okay. Black knife, I decided I was going to take off my darker background, but is that... yeah, I'll just leave it in the middle just like it is here. This knife, like I said, comes 3 different ways. You get it this way. You can get it basically this way, except for this flat here has got a black titanium nitride coating on it. Just that flat area, that's the only real difference. Or they've got an all gray one, gray G10, gray hardware, gray titanium coating on the blade. So those are the 3 different ways these come. If you want to buy one, I bought mine through White Mountain Knives. They no longer have this specific one, but they got the black on the flats. What is it? $41.99. You take off 10% for coupon code CCE, and that's $37.79. So that's right around 55 Canadian dollars. So you can do it that way, or you can buy it from, the only other store I found is AliExpress. AliExpress has got 2 stores selling this for about $40 US, which is right around $60 Canadian, at least on the day that I'm recording this. So I'll leave all of those links down below, depending on where you want to buy it. Since it's a backlock knife, it should be able to be imported into Canada, no problem at all. So there you go, if you want to get one. Like I said in the opening, this is a D2 steel blade. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, we've got a recurve back here. We've got some jimping up here on the spine, and the jimping is one of the things I really do like about this knife. We've got jimping that goes all the way across on the end of the handle here, through everything, through the G10, through everything, and then some jimping up the knife. Works really well. You've got a little flattish section right there where my thumb's wiggling, so you can sneak up a little bit, put your middle finger in that choil. And I've used it this way, and there's still enough jimping to be useful that way. So I don't know what happened there, but I do know my battery went dead. It's happening more and more lately, so yeah. Well, my camera is, what is it, 4 years old? Is it 5 years old now that I've had this camera? So yeah, maybe I need to get new batteries. We'll see. Anyhow, what was I saying about this knife? The blade. Yeah, we've got a nice wedge coming across here. Oh, same with the jimping and the grip up there. That's good. Drop point, nice wedge there. Right around 1/8 of an inch thick steel. And then we've got a nice saber grind in a recurve back here. So we got a decent tip for piercing. We've got lots of belly for slicing, and this recurve for doing some cutting it's really well done, except for it's a little thicker behind the grind than I prefer. I'll give you all those measurements a little bit later on. But the general design of this blade, you know, that's quite nice. I'm quite happy with that indeed. Now the recurve's not too dramatic. If you just really dislike sharpening recurves, this recurve might not be much of a problem because it's just mostly belly up until the last 1/2 inch. So you can sharpen it just like normal back there, and then just this little bit might be a little bit trickier. I will be coming out with a video on how to sharpen recurves, but mostly I'll be focusing on using proper stones for recurves on a guided sharpening system. So not sharpening recurves like on wet stones or using rods, but on a guided sharpening system. I'll be doing that quite soon indeed. But overall, quite nice. We've got thumb studs right there, and this has got a strong back spring, but still it's not hard to deploy the blade using the thumb studs. And you know, that works quite well. And with either hand, so it's easy to deploy that thumb stud. It's a totally ambidextrous knife, and I'm very happy with that. The lock here, that back spring, like I said, it's got a fair bit of force on it, and it's your classic back spring, and the lockup is solid. There's no blade play up and down, tiny little bit of flex side to side, not much at all, just the tiniest little bit. If I tighten it up more than that, then I get too much resistance for opening and closing it. So this is not drop shutty at all. You know, if I press the back lock, let's try to do this on camera here. See, it doesn't fall. I can swing it and it starts to fall. But, you know, if I let go of the spring, you know, it's staying wherever it stops, which can be seen as a safety feature if you want to consider it that. But once you get past a certain point, then that spring will take over and suck it in. So this is going to stay closed in your pocket more than almost any other kind of knife, except for, you know, classic back spring slip joints and back spring backlock knives, because, you know, those springs hold the blade closed. So for that, it's quite a safe knife. The handle, G10 over top of liners, full liners all the way around. Then you've got a back spacer for the back end, that's G10. It's got jimping in there as well. The backlock point, it's got jimping on it. I like that. That's really well done, because my thumb can get grip in there and I know exactly what I'm doing and it holds on. That's what a lot more backlock knives need. They need some jimping on that back spring. So that's really well done. We've got a nice radius here on the spine, so it helps fit comfortably in the hand. It just sits in there really nicely. If you want to grip it way at the back and get more reach, you know, that works. 3-finger grip along with the thumb, you know, I found that that works quite well. Big finger choil right here, so there's a lot of security in holding it and, you know, puncturing into things. Got a bit of a chamfer on the finger right here on the finger choil. That makes it way more comfortable. I would have just rounded this G10 right here just a little bit more, because it's after extended use, it's a tiny bit hot right there, you know, on the inside of the index finger. Very, very minor concern, and that's not hard at all to sand a little bit more round, but very well done. The handle scales, they're flat G10, so there's no milling or anything on it, except for, you know, the chamfer right here. And, you know, the edge is rounded off a little bit, but it's flat slab G10. And then we've got T6 screws all over the place. I don't like T6 screws. We've got T8 here on the pivot, but then you've got T6 screws. At least they're flush and not button springs that are recessed. At least they're flush. That's a good thing. And then we got button screws on the pocket clip right there. And we've got a lanyard hole back here. So you can see that when I put my finger back there. Decent size hole, perfect placement for it. If you like lanyards, that's just the way to do it. I like that. It's not the best way to do it, but the placement of it, very good, and 550 paracord easily fits through there. And right here you see screws so that the pocket clip can go on either side. There is a problem. Here's the first con I'm going to mention with these screws. These screws were sticking out. They were a little bit proud, so I tightened them down. And look what happened when I tightened them down. Hopefully it'll focus up here now. I don't know if you can quite see it. Can you see it? There's a crack right here between the G10 and the liners. That's because those screws are pushing in there. Now, I've left them that way for long enough that maybe it's going to try to stay that way. But here, let me take the screw out. And now look. Everything's nice and flush. So that screw, if you screw it down tight, it's going to start to wedge the liners apart. So I'm not too fond of that. Not too fond of that at all. They could have just milled away a tiny bit more of the G10 there, and I'm going to do that myself, but they should have milled away more of that G10 just at where those screws hit, so that you can put them down all the way and not have them stick out, because right now that screw is sticking out just a little bit further than the surface. That also means it's not tightened at all, which means it might come loose during use. So it's a little thing that they should have done. And yeah, there's that. These screws here, they're okay. Here, let me use this so I can be a little bit more, show you a little more clearly how much flex there is in those screws. So I'm holding this tight, and there's that much movement in these screws. You know, it's not bad, but I don't like T6. T6 just strips out a little bit too easily. These screws here, same way. And then for the T8 on the pivot, let me get it in there first. There's almost no play at all. So the T8, not only is it larger, it's made to better tolerances, which is extremely common on T6 screws anyways. The rest of the handle, though, I forgot to mention the rest of it. We've got a nice swell here so that it fills in that spot in the inside of your palm. It's a very comfortable handle. I'm quite happy with it. I'm not going to take this thing fully apart, but I am going to take a handle scale off because I want to show you we've got skeletonized liners, but still this knife's pretty heavy. I'll do the measurements right after this part. I don't like how heavy this thing is. Let's see, which one's my T8? These little guys to make them spin. That's not the T8. This one is. Now, I like that Tucson does not use thread locker, so that's a good thing on there. And let's take these screws off so we can take this liner off. Now, I've not taken this thing apart at all yet. This is my very first time taking this apart. I want to see what kind of washers we have. Now, Harnds does have a website. Well, I've taken this apart. I didn't notice when my camera stopped recording. It can only do 10-minute segments in 4K. Unfortunately, I cannot record in 2K. I hope they do a firmware update sometime on this thing, but they didn't. So I took it apart, took this off. There's no thread locker on any of these handle scales. There's the skeletonizing on this thing, so that helps it be a little lighter, but still is heavy. Big, long bar in there, so not just a rod, but the springs held on, you know, very securely. That's one thing that Harnds does. They make their stuff robust. I did pry this a little bit out. I don't want to take it all the way off the liner. I'm not going to do a complete teardown, but I just wanted to look in there. Yeah, we've got phosphor bronze washers in there, and I was just going to lubricate in there just a little bit extra with it pried apart. Yeah, decently made. Let's put this thing back together again. I'll do that off camera. Okay, just before we do the measurements, some other things that I didn't do. Blade alignment, quite good. Not perfect, but quite good. And I already talked about the lock and everything, quite retentive. Decent. Let's do the measurements on this thing. How much does this knife weigh? It's 149 grams, 5.3 ounces. Yeah, she's not a light knife. Not stupid heavy, but it's not a light knife. The sharpness from the factory on the blade, 185 best. Not bad on my tester, not bad at all. The cutting edge length, so where my thumbnail is to my thumbnail, a straight line, that's 90 millimeters even, 3.54 inches. From the tip to the closest spot on the handle scale is a bit more, 93.4 millimeters, 3.68 inches. The thickness of the steel, 3.22 millimeters, which is 0.127. So the tiniest hair, well, not even a hair actually, but tiniest bit over 1/8 of an inch. Blade depth, the widest point is right there. That is 26.7 millimeters, 1.05 inches. The thickness behind the grind, so the edge grind, the main bevel meets the edge grind. The thickness right there is 0.64 millimeters, which is 25 thousandths thick. Not bad, but I prefer it a little bit thinner. The handle length, So straight line between my thumbs right there. 125.4 millimeters, 4.94 inches. So pretty much a 5-inch handle and a little over 3.5 inches in the blade. Decent proportions. Oh, I didn't do the balance point before. Right there. Not bad. And the grip area depends on exactly where you grip it. 4 inches, 10 centimeters, roughly. Give or take a little bit depending on how you grip it. The thickness of the handle, 13.8 millimeters, 0.543, so just over half of an inch. The handle depth within the grip area is widest right there. That is 28.8 millimeters, 1.13 inches. When the knife is closed, how much space is it going to take up in your pocket? 37.7 millimeters, 1.48, so an inch and a half. And the total length is about 219 millimeters, 8.62 inches. And Bandit wants to get out of the room. What do you want, Bandit? You got to calm down. If you go upstairs, you're going to start barking. I don't want you barking up there. My summary. This is not a bad knife for a lockback knife or a backlock knife, whichever way you want to call it, at, you know, the high 30s US after you get my discount. That's not bad. You know, around $60 Canadian. You could find a lot worse knives for $60 Canadian, and this thing's legal in Canada. It's a decent knife, and you know, I'm happy with it, and it works well. I would prefer, you know, a stainless steel blade, like a nice 14C28N, and yeah, but this stuff's okay. I like this blade. I like this little bit of recurve. I like the tip. I like the belly. You know, it's very useful, and you know, a lot of different ways of cutting with this thing that worked really well. I even batoned a little bit with it in my tests. Of course, I didn't have the lock deployed when I did that. I had it, you know, open like this. That swedge there makes it a little bit thinner, a little bit harder. You know, just a little bit of testing, nothing major. Just wanted to see, you know, how tough the steel was right now. It's, yeah, decently heat treated from what I can tell. Decent pocket clip. Oh, I didn't show you that, did I? Let's show you that. See, you've got that Tucson, or that Harnds, not Tucson, that Harnds, a way of doing it. Oh, by the way, their name's also on the pocket clip right there. Yeah, nice full depth, decent pocket clip. And the retention of that pocket clip's quite good. Thumb stud's easy to use. And yeah, it's not a flicker, it's not a fidget toy, it's not a toy. This is a working knife. And I'm quite happy indeed with it. If you've got one, let me know in the comments what you think of it. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. There you go. So, till next time, remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.